Trump arrived at the World Economic Forum in Davos, following his announcement of potential tariffs on Denmark and 7 other allied nations, contingent upon their willingness to negotiate the transfer of Greenland, currently under the sovereignty of NATO ally Denmark. European leaders, however, signaled their reluctance to give in to this demand. Then, when he spoke in Davos, Trump insisted he wants to get Greenland, including right, title, and ownership, but he said he wouldn't employ force to achieve that. Trump promised not to use force, seemingly marked a big U-turn after his administration spent the past few weeks insisting that the military was always an option. Trump takes pride in intensifying pressure to negotiate from a position of strength. However, European leaders, steadfast in their commitment to defend Denmark and its authority over the semi-autonomous region of Greenland, appear equally determined to respond to this exceptional situation with a demonstration of resolute determination. Here's all you need to know. In his address at the Davos Forum, President Trump asserted that NATO should not impede the United States' expansionist objectives. He advocated for NATO to permit the U.S. to acquire Greenland from Denmark. Furthermore, the president issued a remarkable cautionary statement, saying alliance members can say yes, and we will be very appreciative, or you can say no, and we will remember.
But now what I'm asking for is a piece of ice, cold and poorly located, that can play a vital role in world peace and world protection. It's a very small ask.
But by promising not to use military force, did Trump relent in the face of strong European unity? Before his arrival in Davos, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen pushed back against Trump's moves.
When it comes to the security of the Arctic region, Europe is fully committed. And we share the objectives of the United States in this regard. For instance, our EU member, Finland, one of the newest NATO members, is selling its first icebreakers to the United States. And this shows that we have the capability right here in the ice, so to speak. It shows that our northern NATO members have Arctic-ready forces right now. And above all, that Arctic security can only be achieved together. And this is why the proposed additional tariffs are a mistake, especially between long-standing allies. The European Union and the United States have agreed to a trade deal last July. And in politics, as in business, a deal is a deal. And when friends shake hands, it must mean something. Ladies and gentlemen, we consider the people of the United States not just our allies, but our friends. And plunging us into a downward spiral would only aid the very adversaries we are both so committed to keeping out of the strategic landscape.
Adopting a more resolute position represented a departure from the strategy employed by numerous European leaders since Trump's return to office. This strategy primarily involved expressing favorable remarks about the president to maintain his goodwill, while simultaneously engaging intensively through alternative channels to seek compromise. European leaders were loud and clear. They won't take Trump's pressure. Belgian Prime Minister Bart de Wever stated at the Davos Forum that Europe must not become a miserable slave to Trump. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, representing a founding member nation of NATO, cautioned against emerging global divisions extending beyond the region of Greenland.
Let me be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition. Over the past 2 decades, a series of crises in finance, health, energy, and geopolitics have laid bare the risks of extreme global integration. But more recently, Great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons. Tariffs as leverage, financial infrastructure as coercion, supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited.
Trump has argued repeatedly that the U.S. needs control of Greenland for its national security. He has sought to justify his calls for a U.S. takeover by repeatedly claiming that China and Russia have their own designs on Greenland, which holds vast, untapped reserves of critical minerals. Greenland had been a colony of the Danish kingdom for hundreds of years, becoming an integral part in 1953. The U.S. government recognized Denmark's right to the whole of Greenland at the beginning of the 20th century. Legislation in 2009 that extended self-government to Greenland also recognized a right to independence under international law, an option favored by a majority of Greenlanders. Greenland sits off the northeastern coast of Canada, with more than two-thirds of its territory lying within the Arctic Circle. That location has made it crucial to the defense of North America since World War II. The U.S. Department of Defense operates the remote Pituffik Space Base in northwestern Greenland. Constructed after a 1951 defense agreement between Denmark and the U.S., the base supports missile warning, missile defense, and space surveillance operations for the U.S. and NATO. Greenland also guards part of the GIUK Gap, named for the initials of Greenland, Iceland, and the United Kingdom, where NATO monitors Russian naval movements in the North Atlantic. Greenland has large deposits of rare earth minerals needed to make everything from computers and smartphones to batteries, solar, and wind technologies that will power a transition away from fossil fuels. The U.S. Geological Survey has also identified potential offshore deposits of oil and natural gas.